Vice Chancellor's Office for giving me this opportunity to speak on this topic of adaptability and resilience in today's fast-paced professional landscape. My approach to this is going to be looking at some of the key changes and the drivers of these changes that are going to be coming up in the next few years, and how being adaptable and being resilient is going to be basically a fundamental differentiating factor between one individual and the next in the professional workplace. My approach to this is going to be that I will present a few slides, but I'll also like input from the audience. So I will stop and ask questions, and I hope that you will be able to respond and answer questions rather than just being a passive listener. So I'd like to kind of position this much more as a conversation with you than just me talking and you all listening. With that, I'm going to present my overview, which is that first I will look at the current context. So what is the current context of what is happening in the professional landscape? Then I'm going to be looking forward and looking at what are the transformational changes that we should be anticipating in the next 5 years or so. And for this, I've drawn my research based on publications from the World Economic Forum as well as the OECD. And then we're going to be looking at the fastest growing and declining jobs. We'll be looking at how do we understand the skills gap that is already present, but which will be widening in the next few years. And then we will also be looking at some of the strategies for preparing yourself for a changing work landscape. And this is where I think once we understand the context and the background and understand what changes to anticipate, then we can really think about what we can do ourselves at a personal level to prepare ourselves for this changing world that we've already entered. It's not something that's coming, it's something that's already here. So first, let's talk about what is the current context, what is actually happening out there in the environment, in the work environment, but also in our political and economic environments, which really, I think, helps us to situate and anticipate the changes that are coming in for professionals. So the first thing that we need to understand is that the labor market is much less structured and much more flexible than it has been ever. And basically what is happening is that people are working in environments which are considered to be boundaryless careers. Okay, so your career will not have any boundaries. There'll be no starting point for one thing and an end point for one thing, but basically it's an integration of skills and jobs that you will be moving from one job to the other. And essentially for this, definitely, the two key personal characteristics will be adaptability and resilience. And then more than ever before, we can say that individuals are looking for re-employment. They'll be transitioning between organizations, transitioning between sectors, and also, of course, moving countries. With that, I want to actually say that we are actually living through a time of deep historical change. This historical change is not only deep, but it's also very fast-paced. And I like to look at cycles of history personally, and I like to look at big picture thinking. I'm a big picture thinker. And when I do big picture thinking and I look at what is actually happening out there, and being a social scientist, I understand that the time that we are living in currently is like no time in human history. Okay, so never before are we facing the challenges that we are facing today. These are unprecedented, both in terms of depth, scale, and the accelerated pace at which these changes are happening. So in order to be able to withstand these major shifts in society, we need something that's very important, and that's something we call career adaptability. Okay, career adaptability, being able to adapt even change careers, being able to understand that change is necessary, and it's really the only constant is going to be change, and that you need to be adaptable. We need to be adaptable as we go through our professional lives. And here for career adaptability, the key concept is actually employability rather than employment. Okay, not employment, i.e., not jobs, but rather your ability to be employed by others, right? So it's very different. Employment, essentially, when people went through life, they went through school, um, university, jobs, and that was basically the trajectory. Now it's not only about that, it's now going to be how many times will you change your jobs? How many times will you change your professions? How many times will you change your careers? And basically, if you're young right now, then you should expect that you will go through several career changes in your lifetime, okay? But you need to be employable. So you need to have you need to have the skills that will allow you to be employable. In the past, having a higher education degree was the passport to success. So having a bachelor's was what opened doors for you for employment. That was true 30 years ago. About 10 years ago, you needed also a master's degree. Now today, neither a bachelor's degree or a master's degree is enough to keep you employed. Okay? And essentially, it's no longer the passport to employability. So what we have to understand fundamentally is that knowledge, skills, and behaviors of the 21st century are very different from the ones that we needed in the past. Okay? So this is by way of introduction. This is by way of situating what I'm going to be saying, what I'm going to be talking about. So right here, we have an understanding that things are not the same anymore, right? So if we move to the next slide, what I'm going to be talking about for the next, I think, 7 or 8 minutes, or maybe 10 minutes, is what are these drivers of transformation? So there are some 5 key drivers that are transforming the labor market globally, not just in the UAE or not just in the country that you're listening to me from or you will listen to me from, but globally there are drivers of transformation. And these are affecting societies and communities no matter where you are. So if you're part of the global economy, if you're part of the global workforce, these transformative shifts are affecting you or will affect you. The first and foremost is technological change. The second are the economic tensions that we're all facing. Number 3 is economic uncertainty. Number 4 is demographic shifts. And number 5 is the green transition. And I will speak about 1.5 to 2 minutes on each one of these. As you know, we are living through perhaps the fastest paced change in society, which is brought on by technology. So when we look at the evolution of human society, we went from being people who couldn't read or write. We then went to being literate. We then went to something called the print culture, where things were printed in books, magazines, etc. We then experienced an internet revolution, and now we're in what is considered to be the 4th industrial revolution. In this 4th industrial revolution, the hallmark of this evolution really is technological change. Okay, and when we try to understand what that means, when the World Economic Forum went and did their research with 1,000 big employers, 60% of those employers said that they expect technology to change their industry. Okay, already technology has changed major industries. When you look at, for example, when you look at transportation, when you look at media, when you look at, let's say, travel, when you look at education, when you look at manufacturing, all of these healthcare, all of these industries have already been changed by the use of technology. and the integration of technology into the manufacturing or the workforce. Okay, now what does this actually mean for people who are looking for jobs or who are in jobs currently? Basically, what this means is that there will be a divergent impact on jobs. Some jobs will be lost and others will be gained. Okay, so statistics tell us that approximately, if you take away the jobs that will be lost and the jobs that will be added, they will, in balance, we will have 72 million new jobs. Okay, so although jobs will be lost and new jobs will be added, so the number of new jobs that will be added is greater than the jobs that will be lost. Okay, so I don't want us to be pessimistic. I don't want us to think, oh my God, all is lost. I'm never going to get a job again. That's obviously not true. There will be jobs, but there will be jobs in certain sectors, and I'm going to cover this later on in my presentation. Essentially, there are certain technological skills that are in demand, and I don't need to tell you what these are. You can tell me. All right, off the top of our minds, we know it's AI, we know it's big data, we know that it's cybersecurity, we know that it's networks, okay? Understanding networks and building networks. So the upshot of this one slide, that if you remember one thing from this slide, it is that jobs will be lost, jobs will be gained. But overall, there will be a net positive effect of jobs. Okay, so it's not a gloomy picture. I don't want anyone to think it's a gloomy picture, because it's not. If we look at the next big shift that is happening, it is around economic tensions. All right, we already see what is happening in terms of restrictions on trade, and all the tariffs that are being imposed from between countries. So although we know that there is a tariff war between two major superpowers, but these tariffs that have been imposed by the USA are also being imposed in smaller countries. And essentially what this will lead to is a change in existing economic ties. So if you are imposing a tariff on me, instead of doing more business with you, more trade with you, I will go and look for other partners who are friendlier and with whom I can trade more easily. Okay. And so this is basically a huge transformative change in how, this will affect all labor markets. Whether you're in manufacturing or not, it really doesn't matter. It's going to affect all kinds of jobs. Okay. Now, what is for us, what is the implication? There are two implications. One is that this will lead to jobs being lost and going to another country, or those jobs coming back, the jobs which we had lost initially 10, 20 years ago because they were outsourced, are now going to come back to us. Okay, so those are the implications. Now, there is a demand for certain kind of skills because of these economic tensions. There's a demand for skills. Again, networking and cybersecurity skills are going to be really important. And that's what people are looking for, employers are looking for. But additionally, they're also looking for people with human-centered skills, resilience, adaptability, agility. Now, these are not knowledge. This is not knowledge areas. These are personal soft skills. Okay, so being able to be resilient in times of change, in times of difficulty, being able to adapt, being agile, these are the human-centered skills that are very necessary in the workforce that we're in, and also for the future. The third key driver of this global transformation is economic uncertainty. We know that almost every single country today is facing an increasing cost of living, and wages are not keeping pace with that. Okay, and basically, what does this mean? This means that, and by the way, this is driven by economic tensions. When there are economic tensions between large countries, which affect everybody, not just the large countries, but also the smaller countries. Essentially, what we have to understand is that because of that, certain jobs will be lost because people, when there is economic uncertainty, new jobs are not going to be added. But instead, what will happen is that job creation will be affected and businesses will hire only people who have the top skills that they need. Okay. And here, what are the skills? Again, it's resilience, flexibility, agility. People who can add new skills, who can add new job descriptions to what they're already doing, or people who can move from doing one kind of job to another kind of job, maybe within the same company. Okay. And here also there's a demand for creative thinking. So if you're a creative thinker, this is great news for you. Again, you can see that these are not knowledge skills. This is not knowledge areas. These are soft skills that are being sought by employers. Okay. The fourth, and I think one of the most important uh, global transformations is what we call demographic shifts. Okay, demographic shifts. Basically, what this means is that many countries will have populations that are aging and where people will move out of jobs. Okay, so people are in higher income countries where there are aging populations, there will be more jobs being available in those areas. At the same time, the lower income countries will have expanding working age populations. What that means is that there'll be more competition for jobs amongst young people simply because of the demographic shifts that are happening. So in the wealthier countries, people are living longer. You will have a huge aging population, and the aging population who is living longer will need care, will need somebody to work with them on leisure skills. They will still continue to want to, for example, have education and mentoring. So essentially, where there is aging population, there will be new growth industries. On the other hand, low income countries will have an expanding working age populations because there'll be many more youth in those countries looking for jobs. Okay. And right here, this New York Times map tells us this infographic published by the New York Times in 2023 tells us what the world will look like in 2050. And basically, what it shows is where you have the yellow colored countries. Basically, this is where the oldest populations will be. Where you have this kind of darker green, that is where you will have very young populations, and the lighter green is where you have, people entering the workforce for the first time. Okay, so essentially, you can go and look up this map. It's from the New York Times. It was published in 2023. And you can look at the country that you're joining in from and see what will happen to the demographic shifts that are going to be occurring in the country you're in. Okay. Now, given these demographic shifts, what is going to be the upshot? What is the implication of these demographic shifts? So the first thing is that there will be demand for skills in certain areas. Okay. So they will want people who can do talent management. Talent management is essentially an HR function. So if you have a background in HR or thinking of getting a background in HR, maybe you want to focus in on something like talent management. Okay. There will also be teaching and mentoring jobs because even though we have a boom or a growth in the edtech industry, and there's much more along the lines of personalized education. Personally, if you were to ask me, I don't think that teaching jobs are going away. What will happen to teaching jobs is that they will change. They will not go away. So there will still be jobs in teaching and mentoring. There'll be jobs in higher education, and there will definitely be jobs in healthcare related fields, especially in those countries where there are, aging populations. Okay. And the last, and I think perhaps the second most important global shift is a transition to green energy. Okay, now what will this look like? Basically, we're looking at something called mitigation and adaptation. So mitigation means um, it means lessening the impact. Okay, so there will be, or there's already begun a revolution or an evolution in how do you come up with strategies that soften the impact of climate change, and this is known as mitigation. There's also a simultaneous movement towards adaptation, and adaptation basically means how how can human beings adapt what they are currently doing to meet climate change. So, for example, if you look here at the mitigation um, Venn diagram, let's look at the Venn diagram and look at mitigation. So you see you have their active transportation, waste reduction, waste management, renewable energy, low carbon transportation, energy efficient buildings. What does this mean? Each of these is a job. Each of these is an industry. Okay. Similarly, if you look at adaptation, what are the growing areas in climate adaptation? It's emergency management, it's climate resilient buildings, it's understanding how to resist wildfires, flood protection, right? All of these essentially water conservation, public engagement, public, growing food locally. Each of these, I want to say, is a potential career area for somebody. Okay. And if you look at what employers are saying about the green transition, 47% of all employers have said that this green transition, the transition to the green economy, or you know, environmental, understanding how the environment impacts their businesses, 47% of employers said that this will change how they do business. Okay. Now, what that means is that if you look at this Venn diagram, and I would ask you to go away and look at other things also, not just rely on this one diagram, there are demand for roles such as environmental engineers, people specializing in automation and autonomous vehicles, renewable energy specialists, etc. So, waste management. I always tell my students, you go into waste management, waste reduction, you'll always have a job, okay? Because as human beings, we create a lot of waste, and there will always be a need for people to look at something like this, okay? You can't go wrong with waste management, is what I tell my students. Okay, now I'm going to pause here and we're going to do some discussion and reflection. So I've spoken for about 28 minutes. I would love to hear from you. What do you think? What has anything that I said resonated with you? Let me turn it over to you. Why don't you give me some feedback about what I have said? I would love to hear from you. Which brave soul is out there that's going to speak to me? I see your names on my chat, so I know that you're here. Anybody? Dr. Zanera?
I can go ahead.
Okay, Amadou, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. It's Dinas. Yeah, thank you. I'm joining from Canada, so thank you for this great webinar. My question is really about, I think some areas of knowledge will be, I think, advantage, will have an advantage, such as informatics, computer science, because when I see the soft skills versus the knowledge skills, so feature jobs tend to favor technology field. So in that sense, I think people in computer science, or I don't know is that also a sense that new generation of cohorts in universities will tend to go in the tech fields. So, and yeah, what will happen to fields like classics, humanities, social sciences, etc. So that's worrisome to me. Thanks.
What a great question. I love your question, and I can tell you I'm at a university right now at Abu Dhabi University. And yes, every year when we have an intake of a fresh intake of students, majority of the students do go for the STEM subjects, the hard sciences. Definitely, there's been an uptick in um, students signing up for computer science, a lot of AI engineering. A lot of engineering is, subjects are favored, majors are favored by students. Not just in our university, we don't even have many majors in social sciences.
Okay.
And I think this is true for, I want to say, for most of the UAE. There's very, very few social sciences majors. Like, for example, you would never, I don't think there's, I mean, don't quote me on this, but I don't think there's any university that will offer you a major in history. Economics, we do have economics, but it's always economics with something. I know that more and more psychology is becoming a big thing. Um, so we do have majors in psychology. We've just introduced ourselves a BA in psychology because it's a growing field. Um, if you look at what is happening worldwide, Amadou, you will see that in almost every country, social science departments have either shrunk or disappeared. Humanities, same things. Um, there, there's very little interest in social sciences and humanities. I think this is also because increasingly students are more career oriented and they want to come out with a degree that will land them a job. Gone are the days when people studied for the love of a subject. Gone are the days when people were passionate about something. Now it's much more, I think it's much more goal oriented in that it's about landing a job after graduation. So that's basically the big shift that we're seeing. But hopefully what I've just spoken about, the 5 drivers of change, is helping to explain why that changes occurred in the youth. I think it's also a lot to do with youth seeing their parents, how hard they have worked their whole lives without necessarily achieving success. Students today have a different definition of success.
Mm.
Students today, for them, success is money. They want to go into fields that will make them rich. And I'll tell you something. I think it's also how quickly can we get rich. Okay, so the whole education paradigm has changed, is what I want to say. Does that make sense? I don't know. I would love for
Yeah.
others to kind of jump in on this one too. I see a hand raised. Please feel free to disagree also. I'm okay with you disagreeing with me. Okay, so I have HQ's hand is raised. HQ, sorry, I can't manage to shift my
Hi.
mouse. Go ahead. Please introduce yourself.
So I'm Huda and I'm a mass communication major here at
Yeah.
ATU.
Okay. Hi, Huda.
Hi. So I want to agree on that a lot of students do want to make money, but I feel like our majors have become so diverse that later on we can just go anywhere. Like I'm a mass communication major and I feel like what we study is so diverse that I can go into journalism, I can go into public relations, I can go into history, I can go into broadcast and media. I feel like it's so easily available to us to go into any field we desire that we don't have to choose one subject. We can just change later on.
That's excellent. So basically, yeah, again, Huda, I want to say that your degree was crafted understanding what is happening in the job market, right? That they need to give you a broad base so that you can be adaptable. Absolutely, you're so right. Right. And Amadou, I want to say that this is how education is changing. If you read some of the articles that are coming out on the necessity of higher education, you will see, a lot of people are saying, I don't need to go into higher ed because, it's not necessarily going to get me a job. And unfortunately, they look at people like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg who didn't finish Harvard, right? And look at where they are now. So for young people, these are some of the role models, and they say, I no longer need to do this. I don't need to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't want to come up with, end up with a big, debt because I'm at university, right? So people are actually questioning the need. But again, equally, there's a lot of statistics, a lot of long-term studies to show that if you've been to university over your lifetime, you earn 30 to 40% more than somebody who hasn't been to university. Okay. In the interest of time, thank you for those two pieces of feedback, Huda. Bravo to you. Most students don't speak up, but I'm so pleased that you did. Good for you. So I'm going to move on, and I'm going to now look at what is it that we're learning about. Dear, my mouse is okay. Sorry. Okay. I'm going to move on and look at the implications of what I have just said. Okay, so essentially, as I said already, there's going to be net job gains amid displacement. So 92 million jobs will be lost, but 170 new will be created. So essentially, you can see that there's a balance of, positive balance of jobs overall. Now, here is what we're learning about from all the reports and the predictions about the future workforce. One is that everybody will need to have additional skills. So skills transformation is non-negotiable. And essentially, reports are showing us that at least 44% of all workers will need to be reskilled. Okay, because as I've said, we have all these new technologies that are coming in. People are shifting jobs, industries, countries. Therefore, there is a need for skills transformation. And unfortunately, there will be ongoing youth employment. And then the other big change that is happening is that skills over degree is the new norm, that skills-based hiring is on the rise. But this does not mean that you don't need a university degree. It is university degree plus skills, both of those. So knowledge plus skills. That's what I tell my own students, that yes, it's great that you're learning new things, but you also equally need to learn skills, and skills that are transferable, portable skills. And as somebody who teaches mainly the freshman students, I try to catch them early, and I try to ingrain in them that information is available. You don't need to learn information. You need to turn information into knowledge, and then you need to build your skills also. So basically, these are some of the trends that we're seeing. And what's going to happen in the future in terms of jobs is that there will be flexible work and scheduling of work, and 25% of all future jobs will be digital. Okay, so you will have flexible work arrangements, but in order to have flexible work arrangements and you want to be a successful professional, you'll need to have a very fundamental skill, which is time management and productivity skills. Okay, so here is where Yes, you have your knowledge, you have your hard skills, but you also need to complement that with soft skills. So let's look at now. This is a World Economic Forum report that was released, I think, about 3 or 4 months ago. It's a very new report, and here we see the fastest growing and declining jobs by 2030. All right. So as Amadou, you were saying that a lot of the technological change is calling for people in certain areas. Right here, you can see, look at the top 10 skills, top 10 jobs. Big data specialists, fintech engineers, right? We have this rise of this alternate um, um, currency, which is this whole cryptocurrency. So fintech engineers, AI and machine learning specialists, software application developers, security management, data warehousing, autonomous vehicles, UI, UX designers, light truck delivery services, and Internet of Things specialists. These are the fastest growing jobs by 2030. At the same time, you have these top fastest declining jobs, and you can read them yourselves. I want you to tell me what is it that you notice in these trends. There are two things you should be noticing in these trends. So one in each. What do you see? What trends do you see? What trends do you see? I'm in a session. I'm in a session. I can't talk to you. مش موجودة اليوم. أيوة. Sorry guys. I have a do not disturb sign on my door. Sorry. Okay, what do you notice about this list? What do you notice?
I can say that the declining jobs are, we can see the trend. It's about like a routinized job, like job with repetitive tasks. Like when you look at, and also where there is a presence of a human being, like postal service, bank tellers, cashiers, accounting nowadays. AI is doing a lot to replace accountants, some tasks of accountants. So the routine aspect, I think technology is very good at that. And on the other hand, the faster growing jobs, that's what we said, it's very tech based.
Yep. Yeah, all tech based. Everything is tech based. So there's a hard skills. The hard skills are all STEM fields. They're all heavily STEM fields. Okay. And also,
can I say something?
Sure, Huda, go ahead.
Okay, so what I notice in this is that the jobs in the growing ones and in the declining ones are somewhat in the similar roles. But what we can tell in this that it's either like, going to libraries or in house shopping is coming down, and delivery services, online shopping, it's going up, like according to this list.
Yes, 9 and 10. So you can see 9 and 10. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And
So
UI
basically,
UX designers as well, that they're using user interface and all of that to like create user friendly apps and stuff. And then we have the cryptocurrency, which is like it's going up while like banks are coming down, like people are shifting to cryptocurrency rather than normal currency.
And things are being done online, right? So the whole internet revolution is really now in its maturity, right? So essentially, yeah, it's affecting the future of jobs for sure. So if you can see that the top fastest declining jobs are the ones which have low skilled workers. Okay, so that's basically the big differentiation that I wanted us to see. So essentially, statistics are showing, or the report is showing, that 39% of workers' core skills will change by 2030. Okay, So what do you think are the new core skills that will be in demand? So what are the new core skills that employers will look for based on the list we just went through? If you look at this list, there are core skills that will be in demand. Okay, and they're not technology related. They are skills. This is not knowledge related. So let me show you. The core skills, today's core skills in 2025, the core skills are analytical thinking, resilience, flexibility, and agility. Again, you see, this is why this topic is so important, because being resilient and agile is really important. Leadership and social influence, creative thinking, motivation and self-awareness, technological literacy, empathy and active listening, curiosity and lifelong learning, talent management, service orientation, and customer service. Okay, so these are the core skills that are required today. In 5 years, this is what it's going to be: AI and big data, networks and cybersecurity, technological literacy. So here, technological literacy means whether you are doing a tech related job or not, everybody will need to be technologically literate. Okay, so knowing how to use technology in everyday life. Okay, not necessarily only for your job, but in everyday life. Creative thinking, resilience, flexibility, and agility, curiosity and lifelong learning, leadership and social influence, talent management, analytical thinking, and environmental stewardship. So you can see that some of these skills on the left-hand side have been replaced. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 skills are still there. Okay, some of them and the others have changed or have been replaced. Okay. Okay, so now let's talk about you. Let's talk about you or us. Okay, so how do we navigate this changing landscape? So Harvard has talked about a new kind of intelligence, which they're referring to as the adaptability quotient. Okay, so we've all heard of IQ, which is your intelligence quotient. We've all heard of emotional quotient, emotional intelligence, IQ. We've heard of social intelligence, SQ. Some of you may have heard of political intelligence, PQ. To add to that list now, there's something called the adaptability quotient, AQ. And basically, what AQ is look at what AQ is. It's resilience and agility, adaptability, and being able to lead change. Right? That's the new big skill that is required today. All right. And I'm going to put in the chat the link to this self what do you call it? Survey. You can do this survey for yourself and see where you stand with your own skills. Okay, so let me put this in the chat here. You can go ahead and do your own assessment. Go ahead and do your own assessment. Okay, and you can figure out what is your level of AQ. How AQ are you? How adaptable are you? Okay, so that's basically, if you can, go ahead and look, you can see whether you have this new level of intelligence or not, or what level your AQ intelligence is at. Now, you can see here what are some of the characteristics of somebody who has a high level of adaptability quotient. So some of the characteristics are that you're a problem solver. Okay, that you're curious. You're curious about new things and you never stop learning. But it's not only about learning, it's also about unlearning what you already knew and relearning it the right way. And in education, this is very important, right? Before you can fully learn, you have to unlearn what you were taught in the past that is no longer valid or necessary. Okay. As somebody who is adaptable, you should also be willing to make mistakes. Okay, so because learning from mistakes is a very important part of being adaptable. As somebody with a high adaptability quotient, you're also somebody that continuously improves, right? So you don't stop. You're constantly growing, or you have the desire to grow constantly. You're also unafraid of the unknown. So what if you don't know what's going to happen, right? This is actually the nature of life. We don't know what's going to happen. So being unafraid of the unknown, rather than always hedging and saying, I'll only do this if this happens. Okay. Somebody with a high level of adaptability quotient is also somebody who is future oriented, not somebody who's stuck in the present or not stuck in the past, somebody who doesn't carry the baggage of the past. Okay. And essentially, somebody who delays gratification, but also somebody who is quick to recover from setbacks. Okay. And basically, if you want to learn more about this, there are two beautiful concepts that I would point you to. One is a growth mindset by Professor Carol Dweck, who is a psychologist at the Stanford University. Her whole life's work has been around this concept of growth mindset. And the second is grit. Grit is a concept that is built on the concept of growth mindset and developed by Professor Angela Duckworth at the University of Pennsylvania. Okay. And essentially, this whole idea of adaptability quotient comes from their work, right? Having a growth mindset, being open to learning, not being afraid of mistakes, accepting challenges and failures as a way of growth. So essentially, being a flexible thinker, these are all part of come from the theories of growth mindset and grit. So I would ask you to go away and look at some of these simple readings. There's some short videos you can go online and watch on YouTube about growth mindset and grit. All right. What are some strategies you can use to improve your own AQ? So this is based on what I would suggest, and I suggest this to my students, is practice self-reflection. Know yourself. Know what are the skills you need to add? What are you good at? What are you not good at? Where do you want to grow? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to be in the next 5 years? Where do you want to be in the next 10 years? Okay. So as a result of that, try to embrace new experiences. Also challenge your own assumptions. Often our biggest enemy is ourselves because we have these assumptions both about ourselves, about situations, about people, about life. Challenge your own assumptions. And essentially, I would also say that nobody's life is without failure, but embrace failure as an opportunity to learn and to grow. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't have time, but there's a short video from Instagram I was going to show you, but I would rather spend the last few minutes in a conversation with all of you. And essentially, I just want to say a couple of more slides and we're done. One is the idea of micro credentials. Adaptability and resilience for the future will rest on your ability to grow and to add to your skill set. Okay. If you are interested, there's a whole bunch of free certifications you can do. And here's a list of some offered by Google. If you want to, you may have to pay something for some of them, but as far as I know, the majority of these are free. If you want to add to your skill set, you have already got some background in some kind of core skills in tech, and you want to add to those, it's never too late. You're never too old. I believe that learning never stops, and you want to move ahead, work on getting yourself some great certifications. This is just some of them. You can also go to Coursera, Udemy. There's a whole bunch of, there's a whole world of MOOCs that are open to all of us. We can do things for free, or we can pay $50 and get a certification. I'm just going to kind of give you one personal example, which I hope will explain my personal deep interest in this topic. And I'm going to talk about my, students who come to me, on a almost a weekly basis. Sometimes they graduated 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and they come to me and say, I need help. I've been out of, I graduated in, 2022. I still haven't found a job. I graduated in, 2019. I'm still looking for something. Constantly counseling, advising students, mentoring students on what to do and how to do it. And I asked them, have you looked at free courses? Have you looked at Coursera? Have you looked at the free, courses being offered by Google? Go get yourself certified. There's so much you can do. And I think almost everybody today is falling over backwards to offer you a micro credential. So add to your list of credentials. Never stop learning. Okay. So I'm going to give you kind of 3 or 4 takes at the end of this, some concluding reflections that I have. Number one is that the career path that was there traditionally, which your fathers and your grandfathers, and maybe some of us, myself included, have been following, those traditional career paths are becoming obsolete. All right. Gone are the days when you will be in the same job for 30, 40, 50 years. That is no longer the case. I see young people, jumping jobs every 3 or 4 years because it helps them to grow. Job security in the future will come from skill security. If you have great skills and you keep adding to your skills, that's where your job security is going to come from. Continuous learning is not an option, it is essential. Okay? And for those of you who are young and are about to start out, who haven't yet started out, or who are still on the cusp of looking for a job, build a network of mentors and advisors. And I always tell my students, make your professors your best friends. They will be the ones who are going to be writing your letters of reference for you. They will be the ones who will bring you into a research project. They will be the ones who will introduce you to other people in their network. Okay? So, yes, LinkedIn is great, but meet the people you see face to face on a weekly basis, make them your friends. Okay? So that's where I will stop, and I'll just show you my list of references. These were some of the references that I utilized to prepare this presentation. I hope you found this useful. We have a few minutes. I would love to have some feedback or questions, anything you would like to ask. I'm going to stop sharing and over to the few of you who are still here. Okay, over to you guys. Any questions? Any feedback? Any comments? No? Really?
Feedback is this was really insightful, very instructive. So I think yeah, it's a call to us to know that as you said, learning never stops. So we have to adaptability is about also keeping up to date. And even if we look at AI is evolving every day. So you have really to keep learning. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Amadou. Ivy, Miss Ivy?
Yes, actually, my take on our session for tonight, Miss Dinas, is that the first step actually that we can take with adaptability and resilience is acceptance. Because we have to accept the fact that everything is evolving, things are changing, rapidly changing actually, and we cannot get stuck in our past practices. We have to accept that we have to keep on learning and change is inevitable.
Yeah, change is and change is the only constant, as they say. So change is
Yes.
happening all the time. And actually, Miss Ivy, you can talk a little bit about your own journey, right? Look at how much you have changed, what you've had to go through to, to grow in your present job, right? You yourself, you started off, somewhere, and now look at where you are. And along the way, how many credentials have you added onto your own skill set, right? It's never too late. And I can tell you, as somebody who is probably at the end of my career, I'm still working on my PhD that I started 2 years ago. It's never too late. It's never too late, because you know what? If I stop growing, I don't think I can benefit society. And for me, that's a really important um, it's a really important consideration for me, that I want to make my life worth something, and my life will be worth something if I leave a positive impact on society. How can I do that? I can do that by continuing my own learning journey. If I don't, you know, I can't preach what I'm telling all of you. So I am a true believer in what I just said. Everything I just said. And I can tell you story upon story upon story of what I encounter in my students on a daily basis. On a daily basis. I see the depth of despair in the students who come to me after 4 years, who come to me after 3 years. We've not been able to find a job. I'll be very honest with you, Miss Ivy. We opened up this. I run the Academic Success Center at the university on my campus. We have 2 job openings, and literally 1,200 people applied for those 2 jobs. 1,200. And not and globally. That is an indication of what is happening out there in the workplace. Yeah. So with that, I will leave you, and I thank you for coming to my session today. I hope you found it useful. Miss Ivy, I hope you will edit some of this out at the end. But thank you so much for coming to the session today. I hope you found it useful. And on behalf of Abu Dhabi University, I will say please come again to future sessions. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, Ms.
Bye-bye now.
Dinas.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Miss.
Bye.